Hello and welcome to this data science project. And in this data science project, we will be looking at a new data set altogether and explore some of its features. So some of the interesting things that we were going to do in this project is, first of all, looking at how you can add some dynamic features like dynamically selecting the columns so that you are giving the power to in the hand of the end user to explore the data based on the variable or the column of their interest. After that, we will going to look at the how you can create new variables or the new columns based on the analysis needs that usually business requires, because not everything is coming at your hand as like already cooked. You need to figure it out how you can understand the business context and create new variables. Then we will look at how you can create KPIs. KPIs is something which helps us determine whether we want to take a particular decision or not, and we will see it in action looking at a business case that we have in hand. And then we will look at how we can create a proper indicator for our entire dashboard, so that based on what decision we want to take, whether it is green, yellow or red, and accordingly we can move ahead and see whether this decision will going to pay off in our way or in a negative way. And then finally we will look at an equation, a statistical equation, which will help us do the forecasting, and where I will be explaining you some of the key concepts. So not only this, in between, as and when required, I will share the tips and tricks as well as interview question. As you know, I do it in most of my videos based on what situation we see that at that time. We go ahead and create I go ahead and create the interview question for you on the fly, and help you understand all these things in a better context. So let's go ahead and start it. And before we start, don't forget to subscribe and comment your views in the comment section, and I will be really happy to know what you think about the video and what you want me to create for the future videos. So let's go ahead and start doing the project. All right, so here we are in the Tableau workbook, and the first and foremost thing is connecting with the data. So I'll have a text file and I'm using the Boston housing data. So this data was collected long back, I believe in 1978, to better understand the housing prices based on the various features, like for example the crime rate per capita, the nitrogen oxide, to understand the pollution, the rooms, the age of the property, and the tax, and the proportion of the lower status people that are living in the community. So all of these things basically have an impact when we are looking for a house. It's about what is a community, whether it is an industrial or there is a heavy residential status or sort of a mix. So all of these factors basically helps us define what property we want to buy, and that's what it is. And finally, MEDV is nothing but the median price of the properties in thousands of dollars at that time. So $24,000 property, $21,000 property, $34,000 property, all of that is what it indicates. So if I go ahead and click on here, sheet 1, you will find this. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll just, on the sheet 1, I will go ahead and so let me bring it on my first monitor. What I have is basically all of the information about the columns that we will going to use. I'll just select that and press this 8 just to shorten it and click OK. So we can call it variable description. So what it has is the crime rate, per capita crime rate by town, ZN, proportion of residential land zoned for lots over 25,000 square feet, and so on and so forth. I will not read for you, but you can go ahead and pause this video and read about it. But the interest is that MEDV, which is the median value of owner occupied homes in thousands of dollars. So what is this is something we have already converted it into the price, and we will look at some of the important variables, which I believe is basically the crime rate, one of the important ones. So if the higher the crime, we would really not like to go ahead, and definitely the price of the property will also come down. Similarly, NOx, the nitric oxide concentration, parts per 10 million, average number of rooms dwelling, and pupil teacher ratio. So if you are a family with kids, you would really like to understand what is a pupil teacher ratio in the town, and percentage lower status of the population. So all of these are some interesting factors that we will going to look at. So first of all, let's go ahead and create a new sheet. So one thing is to understand the proportion between the price, this. So if I take this into, let's say, rows over here, price, and I want to understand via different variables. So first variable that I have is basically crime. So over here, I have the crime on y-axis, price on here. But what I'll do is, sum is not the right indicator in this case. The right indicator will be the average. So I will change it into the average over here. Similarly, I will change this to average over here, just to understand on an average what is the price when the crime rate is going up and down. And right now it is showing you just one data point, but what you need to do is go into the analysis and click on aggregate measures. And that's like one of the question, if you are a beginner, that this particular chart shows only one data point. What would you do to convert into a proper chart so that all the data points will be shown over here? So this way, by going into the here aggregate measure and uncheck, that will help you display all the measures. So what it was doing earlier, it was aggregating all of the data points into one data points. If we uncheck that, that means it is a detailed view or unaggregated view right now. So that's what the answer you should basically give when question like this is arising. So not an issue, but if I need to change the analysis, let's say tomorrow I'm not interested in crime rate, but I also want is RM, the number of average rooms. So as the number of average rooms are going up, you have the property prices also going up. So it's a positive relation between these two variables. So we want to give this power in the hands of the user about what they want to see is at their disposal. So what I need to do for that is create a parameter. Parameter helps us introduce the dynamic behavior by which we can enable our end user based on what situation they have in mind. They can go on the fly and change it and see the outcome directly. So what I'll do is I will just say interest measure or measure interest, whatever you feel like. It's a string and it will be a list. What I'll do is I will just say age and CRIM, whatever, how is the value over here. I'm just putting it like that. And another interesting is LSTAT, the lowest status population, NOx, nitrogen oxide, and maybe RM, the rooms. All right, so let's click OK for now. Now to use this parameter, what I need to do is right click and click on show parameter control, and my parameter control is over here. So LSTAT, if I change crime, nothing happens over here because we have not established a connection. So to establish a connection, what you need to do is take another step, create a calculated field and just say maybe dynamic measure, and here we have to write a simple case statement. Case, this is basically a logical flow or the control statement. So case interest measure when you have the age as a string that you need to, so this is something you will select from here. So when you select age, then what should happen? It should say the age column. When you select the CRIM, the crime rate, then in the front end you should see the crime column. When you have the LSTAT, the lowest status, then you see the LSTAT. when you have NOx, then you show the NOx measure in the front end. When you have RM selected from the parameter, then you show the RM in the front end. And finally end. Now it says calculation is valid. Pretty good. I'll click apply, click OK. Now I will just go ahead and replace this with the RM over here. Okay, so right now the CRIM, the crime is selected, and that's why you are getting the value over here. But we'll just quickly check that the measure is average. All right, and measure is average. Fine. So now if I just go ahead and click on H, based on that, what is it will show you the variables LSTAT or NOx or RM. Accordingly, the value which you have here will be changing as well. So this way you can give all the features that you are having in the hand of the end user and make your chart dynamic. So far I have done just the 5 variables, but what you can do is you can take rest of the variables as an exercise and create a parameter or include it in the same parameter just to better understand the measure. Now the next thing is creating a new variable. So new variable here, the situation is this, that we want to understand how rate fluctuates, what is the average rate, what is the maximum, what is the minimum, all of those things based on the crime rate that is there in the in this particular area. So I have already shown you that crime rate is something which is over here in this column. So I'll go to new sheet and click over here the crime rate and create a bin. So I want to just mention the bin size as, let's say, 3, right? You can click on suggest bin size and it will say 3.3, but I think 3 is good. So it is basically 0 to 3. What is the crime rate, or in this crime rate, what is the price? 3 to 6, what is the price? And then so on and so forth. All right. So I'll just go ahead and click on the crime bin. I will put the crime bin over here on the columns. So this is 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12. This is how you basically should interpret this. And if I want, or basically what I need is basically the price over here. So if I put the price over here, that's basically how the distribution is, that you can see the price is very high. It's sum of price, but it's really high. However, it's not a very good representation. So what I'll do is I'll choose the right chart, which is basically the box and whisker plot here, and I will put the crime bin over here and check that. And over here we don't want to show the null value, so I'll just exclude that. But even after that, it does not show the dispersion. So what I can probably do is just write from the scratch, so that I have not applied any property earlier when I was creating the bin. So price and crime bin, if I just select and go over here, I don't want this, but still it shows me. So that means whatever we were doing earlier was right. So one thing which I can still see is changing it to a dimension. Yeah. So now it shows me what I wanted to show you is basically a dispersed chart like this, where I will show you all the data points. So the trick is basically convert it into a dimension right from the measure, because measure will be aggregating it from here to sum, and dimension is basically changing it into their individual values. All right, so what it basically says over here is the first of all, I'll just remove the null because these are nothing but the missing values. So crime rate, where 0 to 3 crime rate is there, the average price is $23,000. The upper price is $48,000, and the lower is basically your 7,000 over here. and these are nothing but the outliers, which is $50,000 in this case. Similarly, wherever 3 to 6 crime rate is present, that's where your distribution is, and as you see, the crime rate is increasing, the distribution is coming down, right? And over here there is a lot of variation. So bigger this area is, that means there is a lot of variation. Now this variation can be something where you can see whether the room size is increasing, pupil teacher ratio is basically better over there. So it's a matter of doing a research and figuring out what is really happening over here. But what I really wanted to show you is basically this particular feature that you have related to the creation of new variable and then identifying how the distribution of the data basically looks like, to understand what is the high, low, median value is for the different types of house prices, given the fact of different crime rates that we have. Now price is one variable, but based on the crime rate, you can even go ahead and see the other variable like LSTAT, the lowest status population, just to understand if in the lowest status population crime rate is low or high. So there is a bit of an understanding that if you have the lowest status population, the crime rate will be high because people are unemployed and they need money, and for that they sometimes have to do some crime just to feed their family. So you can become a social scientist and figure it out whether this is something really true or really false, that no, that does not happen and there is no clear data which support this evidence. And that's what generally the economist or the those who really take the social cause go ahead and try to understand the data. So this will really help you. So I really recommend that you do some sort of experimentation after understanding these variable descriptions. So once we have done that, let's go ahead and create all the KPIs in just 1 second. So for that, what we can do is simply take the measure names which are over here into the columns and measure values over here. So here is all the measure values, but it is coming as a bar chart. So what I'll do is I will change this into a metric. So now, and to put it in a sort of a KPI format, what I'll do is I will just swap this. So now this is like your front part of the dashboard, where up to you whether you want to show all the variables or you just want to show a couple of variables which are of your interest, like 4 or 5. Similarly, sum is something usually doesn't make sense much whenever doing analysis like this, so you can always change into an average, and rest of the values will be changed accordingly, and you can change you can adjust the these widths based on this. So if you do one change, it will change in every column. So now it looks fine. So this way you can create the measure. But what if you want to understand that based on the price, you want to understand what the KPIs really looks like, or how your selection on a particular price range impacts your other factors, let's say crime rate or pupil teacher ratio. Where was that? Lowest status, crime rate, average CHS, PT ratio over here, 18.5. So after understanding this data, you will see that based on what price range you select, how the number changes. So what I'll do is I will remove the price from here. I'll just remove that. So it's easy. If you want to remove any KPI, just come over here and select remove, and it will be removed. And I'll remove the dynamic measure as well. And what I'll do is I will take the price, select, and click on show filter. Right now if you see 11402, 11402, because it is taking a sum of price. So again, what I need to do is convert it into a dimension and click OK. All right, and now show the filter. So let's say if I am interested in taking a property between $15,000, which is somewhere here, 15.8 or maybe 15.3, to $23,000. That's what my budget is. And then I can clearly see that what is my people teacher ratio, the PT ratio, what is the average age that you have of the properties, what is the average crime rate, 1.7, whether it is going up with you or not, and then what is the average room size per dwelling, so 6.1. And if I go down a little bit and reduce my budget, you can see that room size is decreasing, the crime rate has increased significantly. So all of that basically impacts your selection of house. So this way we can create a good small application. Let's say if you work in a real estate agency or in a real estate company, this way you can give all the flexibility in the hand that based on the price that user is selecting, what is the different parameters that will be impacted. Now let's go ahead and see how we can create a good indicator for our entire dashboard. So we will take an assumption about the crime rate. That crime rate is one of the significant variable when somebody is deciding a house. It can be even the rooms as well, but crime is something which is very significant. Nobody really wants to live in a society where a crime rate is high. So what I'll do is I'll create one variable where I will say create calculate field and say crime rate, and using the if statement, if CRIM, if the crime rate is less than equals to 3, then I will say low. Else if crime rate is less than equals to, let's say 8, then I will say moderate crime. Else high. Okay, and finally end. So this is nothing but we are categorizing a very high level. So earlier we created a bins which were like 0 to 3, 3 to 6, but here I am further categorizing it with the help of something which user can understand, like low, moderate or high crime rate. So if I click apply and click OK and come to the new sheet, so based on the crime rate and price that we have, what we can do is we can create a pie chart like this, which is nothing but an indicator. And just to better indicate, so I'll just hide this, just so that it indicates red, green and yellow. So high is red, low is green, moderate is yellow. If I click apply, this is what you see over here, but this should be reflected as and when you change the price. Okay, so what I want is now the price again as showing the filter, and I want to be a dimension, and I'll click OK. So now it has hidden. Let me show it again, show the filter. So now if I'm changing my price range from $18,000 to, let's say 32, or if less or further less, then how it basically impacts my overall status. So this basically shows that there in this price range you will find a lot of places where the crime rate is low, right, and some places where crime rate is high. But if you see, let's say you are going completely on the upper side, you will see that there is a very less, it's like complete green. That means all the houses that you have is green. That means good to go. So this way you can basically be a little bit creative. So here I have taken a crime rate, but you can take any other indicator that is of your interest and create a higher level KPI for your dashboard, which indicates that whether it is green, yellow or red. Also, not only this, we have gone to a next level and showing it to the user what is the proportion of those indicators based on the crime, the high, low or moderate crime that we have, which is finally resulting into a price, or that has a relation with the price. So this way you can create your high level KPIs, what I wanted to show you. Now finally, one last thing which I will show you in this project is the creation of your linear equation. So what you have is basically the price and let's say the crime rate. Again, I'm taking the crime rate, and I will take a scatter chart and come to analysis and check the aggregate measure, and I get a line like this, or the data points like this. And after that, I go into the analytics, and in the analytics I'll click on the trend line and what I want. So this seems like more of a logarithmic or exponential. So first I'll try with exponential, and I see that exponential is really coming down because there is a lot of weight over here, and because of that it is taking this sort of a shape. But what I'll do is I'll just click on or remove the filter. So nope, nothing changes. So I'll just right click and edit, or I just clicked it, I did not right click, I just clicked on the line, and I'll change it to logarithmic, and this line still give you a better representation. And if you hover over your line, you will see an equation which will give you the idea about the crime rate based on the price that is increasing or decreasing. Similarly, the R squared value. So right now we are predicting crime, but what I'll do is if I'll just swap it, here we are predicting, where we'll be predicting the price. So now if you see, the equation is that price equals to minus 1.95 multiplied with the logarithmic of crime. ln is nothing but logarithmic notation. So in that you have taken the crime plus 20.8476, which is an intercept. So it is a very simple linear line equation which helps you predict the price. And R square basically indicates over here that how much crime contribute into the price. So its value of, so the value is near to the 0, that means the contribution is low. If the value is near to high, then the contribution is significant. So 0.21 shows that there is just some part of crime rate which really contributes into the price. However, the p-value, which is 0.0001 or 0001, indicates that you have you can basically choose this variable, because p-value, if so, the threshold is that if the p-value is lower than 0.005, you can take the value. If the value is above than 0.005, you need to really understand whether this is really significant or not. Thumb of the rule is don't take that value, but in some cases you may want to take that value because your results are coming good. So but the rule of thumb I just said 0.005, lower than that take it, if above than that don't take it. So you can take this. Now you can go ahead and experiment with this with different variable, and what you can do is, based on the dynamic measure that we created earlier, you can simply just go ahead and take that dynamic measure and try seeing how different lines are coming over here for the different types of measure that is of your interest. This way you will even giving the lot of control and a lot of flexibility to your end user, which is kind of creating, or which is kind of having the much more power to really explore the data. Now, as the last part or the last thing as an exercise, what I can give it to you is creation of dashboard. So creation of dashboard in a way where you will have this right at the top, maybe top left position, and the KPIs just below to that, and then these dispersion or these measure is one chart, this as another chart, and finally this line is another chart that can be part of the dashboard. And the filters can be the price and the NOx, these interest measure. And for user, if they want to understand the variable description, this should be part of your help page, that what each of the column or each of the measure really looks like. So this way you can create a very beautiful, meaningful dashboard. I really look forward to see what you can create, and I really appreciate if you can share the link below by uploading it on the public Tableau. And this way, not only me, but you can even create a portfolio of your project where you can put it in your resume to show it to your end user. So I really recommend that be creative and show me something beautiful what you are able to create, and I will be really interested in seeing that, because that shows that everybody has their own part of the creativity, and everything is good, nothing is bad. Whatever you create, don't forget that initially you may be a little scared, but don't forget that nothing is bad. Whatever you will create is good, because that's how you improve. Even today I'm trying to improve more and more upon the skills of the dashboarding. So that's about it, and don't forget to share it with your friends and colleagues, and I will meet you in the new video with some new project.